Hey guys. Hey. I am.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Spitting fire. I texted to you. Check your text. Hi, everybody. We're ready to rock and roll now.
So, okay, I'm Maria Cruz. Okay, where's she at?
Yeah, Maria Cruz. Yes. Hello, everybody. Before I get started, I just want to welcome everyone here. And I know folks are coming late, and I just want to play something.
Where we at? I want to get myself set up. So what
page 1340.
1340 or what?
Oh, 1340. Okay.
Hey, the 25th of August.
1340.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me see. Let me see. 13.
Just so funny. Me and Spin Fire was like, we ready to read tonight.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna be busy tomorrow because I'm going on vacation next week for the holidays.
Yeah, I remember.
1340.
All right, yeah, I'm getting ready to play this because I'm waiting for a couple of people to come on in. But
okay, so 1340. What line?
The first line.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Number 1, I think.
Okay.
I'm still trying. Okay, 1340. Oh, and who did you know Daryl McDavid to be? That part?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so this is me speaking.
Hold on a second. I got to play this first.
Okay.
All right, guys. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. And here 20 years later, 25 years later, I grow up, I become famous, and I'm sitting at a house where I bought my first piano, which was a white piano. And I began to play a song. I began to start writing on a song. And that same melody when I was 8 came to me. And I couldn't figure out where I heard this melody from. At first I thought I was like still in this melody, but I come to realize that as the lyrics came to me, I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. A tear comes down my eye because I say, wow, I wrote this song when I was 8. Coming up in the hood, I saw so many things. Those so many things brought me all of my dreams. And now here I am today. Here I am today. All right, Rob. All right. Here I am today, right? Okay. Hold on.
Right. Amen to that. That sounds good.
Amen. Hold on a second. I'm just trying to get my people in here. Hold on a second. days you're alive, you can make it up. And I always used to sing in the shower because I was too shy to sing anywhere else. So I was singing in the shower. I thought I sounded good, but my sister would always bam on the door, tell me to stop calling hogs, get out of the bathroom because she had to get in there. I looked at that like she was jealous and, just wanted to get in the bathroom, wanted me to get out so she can be in there 20 times as long as I was in there. So I thought it sounded pretty good. The shower gave me an echo, a reverb that allowed me to hear myself so beautifully, so clearly, that it gave me the confidence to walk out of the shower eventually and sing throughout the house. Of course, the house did not have the same reverb. Outside did not have the same reverb. But when I dropped out of high school and became a street performer, I was trying to find that reverb that could echo my voice, that could echo my life, so the world could hear the gift that I had in me. And people ask me to this day, what do you think about your success? How does it feel to perform in front of 100,000 people holding up candles where it looks like a sea of fire? I say, all of that's good and all, and I appreciate that. And I'm very thankful for being able to touch so many people with my music, with my songs. But I tell you, somehow I got that same feeling when I was a street performer down in the subways of Chicago. Yeah, that's right. I was a street performer. 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 And I will always be first, a street performer, because that allowed me to develop my craft, develop my gift. And besides, it's a great echo down there as well. It was a great echo down there, except for the L coming by. But when the L would come by, I would try to challenge that L and sing louder than the L, and the L would roar. And I would try to sing louder and louder and louder and louder. But the L would be going by. And I would get frustrated because how am I going to get my money if these people don't hear me singing, man? I wanted to tell people, what made y'all put an L here when I'm trying to sing? But then I come to realize that, hey, sometimes you have to rise above the noise. Find a way to rise above the noise, Rob. And I tried to rise above the L. Still wouldn't work. So I became real slick. I would be singing like this. Someday the world would know my name. I would be singing like this. Someday the world would know my name. And here comes the L, and here comes the L, and here comes the L. And I'd shut up until the L stopped. And when the L stopped, it became quiet again. And I would say, I know someday the world will know Robert's name. And the people would clap. Oh, I said, that is.
All right, we know his name, don't we? Okay, let's get started, ladies. I was waiting for my Canic, but Canic is not here. So, ladies, I guess we're going to have to do what we got to do, right?
Okay, well, then I'll be Canic. Change my name to Canic.
All right, Canic.
All right, you want me to go ahead and start?
1 second, I'm gonna put it up so everybody can read it. Just 1 second. All right, good people.
Who is this that they're on the who is this that they're interrogating or they cross-examining?
Williams. Keith Williams.
Oh, okay.
All right, I am ready whenever you. Oh no, with 44, right? Because we're gonna be Jackson.
It's 1340, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm trying to get it. All right, and you want to start? Let's start a little bit higher.
Okay.
Let's start when you first come in. All right, 1330. Sorry. Let's start
1330.
Okay.
Yeah, 1330. All right, y'all. I'm not gonna be looking at the chat. If y'all gonna type something, I won't see you guys. So I'm getting ready to go. Bammer. Miss Bammer. Hold on a second. Hold on. Miss Bammer. Hold on.
Well, it ain't number 3 of us, isn't it?
Yeah, Bama's trying to get in. Hold on a second. She was supposed to be reading. Hold on. All right, Bama, I just sent it to you. All right, let's get started. So we've been holding up. So when people ready to, it's going to be 14-minute marker. All right, let's start.
Okay. So who is what? Wait a minute. Who is? Let me see. Let me look and see who is who. Okay. So you're going to be Cruz. Wait a minute. Who's going to be what? Why y'all still got your name on here?
Oh, you want me to change my name?
Yeah, because we ain't gonna know who's who.
All right, I'll be the clerk and the judge.
Okay.
Well, no,
So
that's
who will
okay.
be,
You gonna be the clerk?
Williams.
I'll be Keith Williams. I'll be Keith Williams.
Okay.
Because he's talking to you, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'll be Keith Williams now, and then I'll turn back into Canning when I need to, or Nicole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, you ready, guys? Just change our voices.
Wait a minute. Let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Okay.
Please state your name for the record. Hello.
Where you at?
1330. I just went up one line just to say you so you could state your name for the record.
Oh, okay.
Please state your name for the record. 1340. 1330, ma'am.
Is that me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm Keith Williams. Oh, okay. I didn't know I was Keith Williams. Keith Williams.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, Mr. Williams. You can take your mask off, and I will give you a couple of instructions before we begin.
Sure.
Our court reporters takes down everything that you say, so it's important that you do not speak too quickly or talk over any of the lawyers that are questioning you. It just makes their job a lot harder. So, I'm going to ask you to speak up also into the microphone. If there is a question that you don't understand or want to have clarified, let me know and I'll have our lawyer to do that for you. And just do your best to answer the specific question you're being asked, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead. That is on. Just tap it. Okay, go ahead, Miss Cruz Mendez.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, are you employed?
Yes,
And how are you employed?
I'm a pastor.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear him.
Yes,
And how are you employed?
I'm a pastor.
Just move the mic a little closer to you. Great, thank you.
How long have you been a pastor?
It will be 14 years in November.
Do you do anything else for work?
I buy and sell a few cars.
Where did you grow up?
Robert Taylor, Inglewood, and South Shore.
Where is that?
South side of Chicago.
Chicago, Illinois.
Yes.
And how far did you go in school?
I attended college 4 years and not quite with a complete of a degree.
Mhm. Did you do any other schooling?
Yes.
What kind of schooling?
A number of training for pastoring, theology, and other kind of stuff.
Approximately when did you start attending college?
I graduated high school in 81, so directly after that.
And did you graduate from college?
I did 4 years with not quite completing.
Okay. While attending college, did you work at all?
Yes.
And where did you work?
I worked a number of jobs. I worked UPS, post office, intervals of several months. First National Bank of Chicago. Many times these jobs were simultaneous.
When you worked for UPS, what did you do there?
I worked in the dispatch office.
And approximately when did you work? Approximately how long did you work for UPS?
Several months.
You testified earlier that you currently work as a pastor. Prior to being a pastor, did you work in any other fields?
Yes.
And what field did you work in?
In the mortgage business.
And how old did you work in the mortgage business?
A number of years, about many years. I think over 20 years.
And approximately when did you first start working in the mortgage industry?
Dates running together for me, about it was a few years after high school.
When you worked in the mortgage industry, were you employed by the businesses or did you have your own business?
The majority of it, I worked for other people for a number of years, and then I did have my own business.
I'm showing you what's been marked for identification purposes as Government's Exhibit 7, just the witness. Did you see that there, sir, on the screen?
No.
Do you now see Government's Exhibit 7 on the screen before you?
Yes.
Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And generally speaking, what is that?
It's a picture of myself.
And approximately when, just generally, was that photograph taken?
I would guess maybe 88.
And is this photograph a fair and accurate representation of you in the late 80s?
Yes.
Government offers Government Exhibit 7 into evidence.
No objection. Okay, that's in evidence.
Can we publish to the jury in public, please? Are you familiar with an individual named Robert Kelly, also known as R. Kelly?
Yes.
And how do you know Robert Kelly?
We've been friends for a long time.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Can you speak into the mic?
Yes. We've been friends for a long time.
Okay.
And approximately how old were you at the time when you met Robert Kelly?
Early 20s. It could have been earlier.
I'm showing the witness and the public and the jury what's in evidence as government's Exhibit 1. Do you
Yes.
recognize the individual in government's Exhibit 1?
Yes.
And who is it?
Robert Kelly.
I'd like to take a moment to look around the courtroom and tell me whether or not you see Robert Kelly in the courtroom today.
Yes.
Can you point him out and identify him by identifying a piece of clothing he's wearing?
It's a tape or a caramel color shirt. It looks like it's from here.
Indicating the defendant.
I'm sorry.
No, I just said you're pointing out the defendant.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
And under what circumstances did you meet the defendant?
There's a person who grew up with, who was in my church. He introduced the two of us.
At some point, did you become familiar with the defendant's occupation?
Yes.
Okay. And what did the defendant do as an occupation?
He's a musician, singer, songwriter.
And was he working as a singer when you first got to know the defendant?
No, he was, he sang, but he was not professionally at the time. I met him before he got signed.
Okay. And at some point, did he start singing professionally?
Yes.
How would you describe your relationship with the defendant?
Friends.
Okay. And how often would you see the defendant?
This is a sort of, I worked a lot, so it would be a few times a month.
Did you ever visit the defendant's house?
Yes.
I'm showing just the witness what's been marked as government's Exhibit 501A and 501B. Before I do that, actually, you mentioned that you had previously visited the defendant at his home. Do you recall where he lived?
Well, he owns a home at 1010 George Street.
So I'm showing just the witness 501A and 501B. Do you see that there on your screen?
Yes.
I'm going to show you 501B. Do you recognize these?
Yes.
And what do you recognize them to be?
1010 George Street.
Where the defendant lived.
Yes.
The government offers Government Exhibit 501A and 501B into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, those are in evidence.
If I can publish to the jury and to the public, please. So Government's Exhibit 501A and 501B, you testified that that's 1010 George Street where the defendant lived.
Yes.
And was that in Chicago, Illinois?
Yes.
Do you recall the time frame when the defendant lived there?
No.
Was it the early days when you met the defendant?
Yes, well, I'm the early days, he didn't own a home.
At some point, when you knew the defendant, did he own the home at 1010 George Street?
Yes.
And did you also visit the defendant at any studios?
Yes.
Do you recall where the studio was?
No.
Was it in Chicago?
Yes.
Do you recall the general area?
It was west of the Loop of Chicago, the Loop, or west of North Michigan Avenue. And, it was between Halstead and it was north, the near north side of Chicago.
Now, during your friendship with the defendant, at any point, did you travel with the defendant?
Yes.
On how many occasions did you travel with the defendant?
I think just a couple.
And when you travel with the defendant, what mode of transportation did you use?
I traveled with him on a bus once, I remember for sure. And
what kind of bus?
It was a tour bus.
Did you travel outside of the state with the defendant?
Yes.
Generally speaking, do you recall where you went on the tour bus with the defendant?
Yes. I think the only time I was on the tour bus with him was when we went to Louisiana.
Now, during the time period that you were friends with the defendant, did you have an opportunity to meet people in the defendant's inner circle?
Yes.
Who do you recall meeting?
I met a number of people.
Any names that you recall meeting?
Gerald.
You said Gerald. Do you know Gerald's full name?
Yes, Gerald Jones.
And did Gerald Jones have any nicknames?
Yes.
Anyone else?
I met.
I'm sorry. What was Gerald Jones' nickname?
Black.
Anyone else?
Yes, I met Daryl McDavid.
And who did you know Daryl McDavid to be?
He was the accountant.
Who's accountant?
Robert's accountant.
And just going back to Gerald, the individual you said who was nicknamed Blackie, who was he to the defendant?
I believe he was a blood relative.
Do you know when kind of relative? What kind of relative?
Not really, but they're pretty close. I think maybe first cousins or something.
And anyone else?
I met June, and I don't know his last name. I met a number of people.
Are you familiar with an individual named Barry Hankerson?
Yes.
And who is Barry Hankerson?
Barry is Robert's manager.
I'm showing the witness only what's been marked for identification on purposes as Government's Exhibit 8. Do you recognize that individual?
Yes.
And who is it?
Gerald Jones.
Gerald Jones?
Sir, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Gerald Jones.
So much better. Thanks.
And Gerald Jones, that's the individual you said was named Blackie.
Yes.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of Gerald Jones, also known as Blackie?
Yes.
The government offers Government Exhibit 8 into evidence.
Any objection? No. All right. That's an evidence you can publish.
You also testified that you were familiar with an individual from your friendship with the defendant named Daryl McDavid. I'm showing the witness and the public what's in evidence is Government's Exhibit 12. Do you recognize that individual?
Yes.
And who is that?
Daryl McDavid.
Are you familiar with an individual named Aaliyah?
Yes.
Who is Aaliyah?
She's the entertainer who died in a tragic death.
And what if any relationship did she have with the defendant?
I'm told that they were married. Matter of fact, they were married.
I'm going to object. How do you know they were married?
It was referenced in the public. It was in the media.
All right. Is that the only way you know about it? Or were you there when they got married?
No.
All right. Next question.
Are you familiar with, you testified that you're familiar with an individual named Barry Hankerson.
Yes.
And what, if any, connection did Barry Hankerson have to Aaliyah?
I believe they were blood relatives.
I'm going to object. If he knows for a fact, he can testify. Do you know if they were? Sometimes people say, I believe that, and they actually know.
I don't know.
Next question.
You previously testified that you had a mortgage business, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Can you just explain generally to the jurors what that entails, just very generally?
If somebody need a mortgage, they will come and we would take their information and broker it into an institution that will fund their mortgage.
Mortgages for houses, real estate?
Real estate.
Things of that nature.
Yes.
And did you have, when you had your own business, did you have an office?
Yes.
Did the defendant ever visit you at that office?
Yes, it was, to my knowledge, maybe once or twice, maybe.
So I want to talk about an incident in which the defendant visited you at your office.
Yes.
Okay. If you could explain to the jurors what happened when the defendant visited you there.
He indicated, I believe, that he wanted to get he was going to get married.
When you say he indicated, what do you mean?
Robert?
The defendant?
Yes.
So just to be clear, the defendant visited you at your office
Yes.
and he indicated to you that he wanted to be married.
Yes.
At the time, did you know who he wanted to marry?
Leah?
Now, who, if anyone else, was with the defendant when he came to your office to say he wanted to get married to Aaliyah?
There were a number of people.
Do you recall any of the names of the people who were there?
In my office, not necessarily in where we were.
Correct, in your office.
I think it was June and Demetrius.
Do you know Demetrius' last name?
No.
And you also mentioned June was there, correct?
It could have been some others. I just don't.
Oh, okay. Do you recall what, if any, what are we at?
6.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Do you recall if any relationship June had to the defendant?
I think he was like an assistant.
What did the defendant say to you after he told you he wanted to get married to Aaliyah?
As if I knew a minister.
And what did you say?
Yes.
You said yes, you knew a minister?
Yes.
And did you provide him with any names of ministers?
Yes.
Whose name did you provide?
Nathan Edney.
And how did you know Nathan Edmond?
He was also involved in real estate, and he was a tax buyer, some of the person, and he was involved in real estate in general.
Was he a minister?
Yes.
And how did you know that?
I knew him for real estate, and we were friends.
I'm showing just the witness was been marked as for identification purposes as Government's Exhibit 89. Do you see that, sir?
Yes.
Generally speaking, what's in Government Exhibit 89? A picture of Nathan. Oh.
A picture of Nathan Edmond.
And is that a fair, accurate representation of Nathan Edmond?
Yes.
Government offers Government's Exhibit 89.
Any objection?
No.
All right. That is in evidence. You can publish it.
So you mentioned that this meeting with the defendant happened at your office. Do you recall where your office was located?
9730 Southwestern in Evergreen Park, Illinois.
Is that near Chicago?
Yes.
How close is it to Chicago?
One side of the west side of Western is Evergreen Park, and the east side of Western is Chicago.
So is it like a suburb of Chicago?
Yes.
So you testified that you recommended Nathan Edmond to the defendant?
Yes.
Who, if anyone, reached out to Nathan Edmond once you recommended him to the defendant?
I'm not sure, but I have called him. I just don't remember.
When you say you may have called him, what do you mean? You may have called Nathan Edmond?
Yes.
Did Nathan Edmond ultimately agree to officiate the wedding?
Yes.
Did the defendant say when he intended to marry Aaliyah?
Not specifically.
Did you get an impression as to the time frame as to when it was to happen?
My assumption was that it was going to be soon.
So, Mr. Williams, I want to turn your attention for a moment. Have you ever been convicted for a crime?
Yes.
Oh, Lord. Okay. And what crime were you convicted of?
1 count of bank fraud and 1 count of perjury. I'm sorry. Let's get back into character.
And approximately, when was this?
This was approximately early 2000 and maybe 1 or 2.
And generally speaking, what were the circumstances that led to your conviction?
There was a transaction that went through my office and I benefited from it and I got indicted. It was a 95 transaction and I knew I went to trial and I lost.
Were you sentenced as a result of your conviction?
Yes.
And what was your sentence?
24 months.
And did you serve this sentence?
No.
What did you serve?
ended up, the judge gave me an option of going to boot camp or even though I was too old, and it ended up being 7 months.
And you served those 7 months at boot camp?
Yes.
Now, turning back to your interactions with the defendant, at any point did you work for the defendant?
No.
Did you and the defendant ever discuss the prospects of you working for him?
Yes.
What did you discuss?
Robert, when I got in trouble, Robert offered me a job. He described it as being in the point system.
And what did you understand that to mean?
One of his managers.
Now, you have previously mentioned that Barry Hankerson was his manager, correct?
Yes.
And you mentioned that the defendant had offered you a job as a manager.
Yes.
Did you understand you would be replacing Barry Hankerson?
I did not. I just don't remember the time frame. I did not.
Nothing further.
Any cross-examination?
Just maybe 1 or 2 questions.
Okay. Good afternoon. The court, is your mic on?
I think it's on.
Okay, let's give it a shot.
Okay, so I'm going to be reading Canick and him.
I can read him.
Okay. Mr. Williams, do you recall occasion when Robert will call you crying?
Yes. Yes. Cruz.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. Hold on. Where are we at?
Objection, Your Honor.
Hold on. What page is it?
Oh my God, she's not paying attention.
I sure wasn't. I thought I was done. Where are we at?
1350.
Okay, 1350.
Line 6.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustain.
May we have a brief sidebar?
Yes. Talk about beyond the scope of direct.
This is not, Your Honor, in the direct examination by the people.
The government?
Yes, by the government. There was inquiry as to knowledge about the wedding that Robert planned for himself and Aaliyah.
Right.
And in that statement...
Oh, that can't come in. That's hearsay.
No, this is from Robert to him.
Kelly called William crying sometimes? And Kelly stated that he married her to protect her from her mother? That is rank hearsay. Sorry.
I'm not offering it for the truth of the matter, Your Honor.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
What are you offering it for?
This is what he said.
That's hearsay.
My exception.
Nice try. Do you have any further question?
No, I don't think so. I always like to end it on a high note, Your Honor. So I have to find a high note.
Okay, nothing hearsay though.
You testified earlier that Barry Hankerson was Mr. Kelly's manager.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And Barry Hankerson, I think you testified, might have been related to Aaliyah.
It was my understanding, yes.
And near the time that was drawn, Barry Hankerson was eventually terminated by Mr. Kelly. Am I correct?
Yes.
And Barry Hankerson has for some reputation, and I'm correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Nothing further.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. William. You can step down. All right. We have just at the lunch break. So I think we'll break for lunch at 2:15. Don't talk about the case or anything else about the witnesses or anything like that. Do have a good lunch, and we'll see you at 2:15. All rise. So what's that? Do you have other witness for the afternoon? of any video? Any of them video?
Am I Geddes?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Which one? The one we talked about this morning?
No. Veronica Jackson. She'll be testifying about the 241, the t-shirt.
Okay. Anyone after that?
We have two initial witnesses.
All right.
Who are they?
They are, I'll let you know, Malik and Arnold.
So the government has given the names of the witnesses to the defense. Anything else that we have to do before we break for lunch?
Not from the government.
I just need to see the parties at the side without the reporter just for a second, just on scheduling. I think we're good. Have a good lunch, everyone. All rise. Everybody can have a seat. Just before we start, I just need to see the parties on the side with the court reporter. All right. Can I see the lawyers at the side for a minute, please?
Oh, okay.
Ooh, live
This was
sidebar.
rejected. Okay, hold on.
1358.
So that we know how our witness on video, and I think we need our jurors, unless there's there's not anything else, I'm sure, because the witness is here. All right, let's get the jury. All rise. You may be seated. All right. I hope you had a good lunch, everyone. We're ready to proceed to the next witness, who's going to be testifying remotely. Go ahead, Ms. Geddes.
The government calls Veronica Jackson.
Ms. Jackson, can you please stand and raise your right hand?
Should I stand?
The Veronica Jackson's called as witness, having been firstly duly sworn and affirmed, was examined and testified as follows.
Yes.
Please state your name for the record.
Veronica Jackson.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, Ms. Jackson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, just a few instructions. We have the court reporters that takes down everything that you say. So just take your time. Don't speak too quickly, and let whichever lawyer is finished, let whichever lawyer is asking question, and let them finish the question before your answer, so we're not stepping over each other. And then the final thing is, if there's a question you need to be repeated or clarified, let me know, okay?
Okay.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Ms. Geddes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Where do you work?
Illinois State Police Forensic Science Center at Chicago.
And what is the article and what is your title at the Forensic Science Center in Chicago?
I'm a forensic scientist in a biology section.
How long have you worked as a forensic scientist in the biology section?
13 years.
What is the forensic biology section responsible for doing?
We examine evidence for the presence of biological substances such as blood, semen, urine. Blood, semen, and saliva. We testify in court when necessary and documents our results.
And is the Forensic Science Center in Chicago an accredited lab?
Yes.
By whom is it accredited?
It's accredited by the ANAB, which is blah, blah, blah. It's a long name, American National Standard Institute, American Society of Quality, National Accreditation Board, ANAB.
Okay, and just generally, what is involved in the accreditation process?
The accreditation board, they come to our lab. They make sure we operate under certain guidelines. They check things like documentation of equipment, maintenance, analysis, case files, and case chemical storage, things like that.
Can you tell the jury about your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree in biology from Illinois University, Northern Illinois University.
And have you received any training or additional education to perform your job as a forensic scientist in the forensic biology unit?
Yes, the Illinois State Police as a forensics program, training program for biology.
How long is that program?
That's a year.
And did you participate in that program?
Yes.
As a forensic scientist, have you had occasion to analyze evidence for the presence of biological fluids?
Yes.
Approximately how many times have you conducted such tests?
Thousands of times.
Did you say thousands?
Thousands of times, yes, thousands.
And have you previously testified as an expert in court regarding the analysis of evidence for biological fluids?
Yes.
Approximately how many times?
18.
Your Honor, pursuant to Federal Rule of Evidence, Rule 702, I'd like to offer Ms. Jackson as an expert in the field of forensic biology.
Any objection?
None.
None. Okay, the witness can be an expert. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll talk to you a little bit about what that means more in final instruction. But generally, when someone possesses expertise in an area that most of us don't understand, a person is permitted to testify as an expert. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you explain to the jury the process for analyzing a piece of evidence for the presence of biological fluids?
Which biological fluid, or just general, or?
Why don't you talk about the process for looking for the presence of saliva and semen?
Okay. So for saliva and semen, we use an alternative light source to look for stains on the evidence. And when I find those stains, I take samples of those stains and use tests.
Can you just...
Sorry.
That's okay. I interrupted you.
Can you describe the particular test that you use to determine whether saliva is present on a particular piece of evidence?
A test that indicates the presence of saliva is our Fidebus test. Fidebus test.
Just for the benefit of the court reporter, is that Fidebus?
Yes.
What is the Fidebus test?
It's a color change test that indicates a presence of saliva. It tests for the protein, analase, that is high concentration, usually in saliva. I don't know these biological terms.
And can you describe the tests that are used to determine whether semen is present on a particular piece of evidence?
We use 3 types of tests. There is an acid phosphate test, which is a presumptive test. It indicates a presence of semen with a color change and approximates a protein that is present in semen is present. Then there is a P30 test, which is another protein that is present in high concentration in semen. So it is also a presumptive test, meaning that it is similar to a pregnancy test or a pregnancy strip, when positive, it indicates a presence of semen. Then we have a conformatory test, which is a microscopic search for sperm. And that is, again, a confirmative test under a microscope.
And can you explain what you were looking for in the microscopic test?
Some sperm cells.
So is it fair to say that you put the sample underneath the microscope and you look for the presence of sperm?
Yes.
And in this case, were you asked to analyze a particular piece of evidence for the presence of biological substances?
Yes.
What substances were you looking for?
Saliva and semen.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm showing the witness what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 241.
Oh,
Do you recognize this shirt that I'm showing you?
I don't see it right now. I do.
And
Yes, that is my initials and the date of the analysis.
so fair to say you recognize Government Exhibit 241, which I just showed you based on your initials that you saw on the manila tag.
Yes.
Now, did you prepare notes in connection with your analysis of Government Exhibit 241?
Yes.
And do you have a copy of your report and the associated notes in front of you?
Yes.
And would you reviewing that report and those notes assist you in your testimony today?
Yes.
The witness is referring to what's been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 3500 VJ6. And with the court's permission, I'd like Ms. Jackson to be able to refer to her notes to assist her with her testimony today.
Any objection?
As it is used to refresh her recollection.
Wait. You don't object to her refreshing her recollection?
No.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. When did Forensic Science Center receive Government Exhibit 241, the blue t-shirt that I just showed you?
It was received in lab February 13, 2019.
What was the condition of Government Exhibit 241 when you received it?
It was in a sealed condition.
And when did you receive it?
I received it on March 8th.
Is March 8th the day that you prepared your report?
That is the day that I prepared my report. I don't have my list of custody of the shirt, so I don't know the exact date I received it.
Can I direct your attention to the fourth page of what's in front of you, as it's identified as page 2 of 4. Do you see that? Do you see that page in front of you?
Yes. My start date.
And what, if anything, does reviewing that tell you about the date on which you received this piece of evidence, Exhibit 241?
So I did start it on February 15, 2019.
So fair to say that you have received it on or before February 15th of 2019?
Yes.
What did you initially do with the Government Exhibit 241 when you received it?
When I received it, I made sure it came to me in a sealed condition and had initials and dates on it from our laboratory. And then I opened the package and looked at the evidence. And
when you say you looked at the evidence, what were you looking for?
Just looking to see if there was any notable stains, looking at the manufacturer tag and the size, and just seeing if it was damaged in any way.
And when you say you looked at it, you're referring to just using your naked eye to look at that?
Yes.
And what did you do after that?
After that, I looked at it using an alternative light source.
What is an alternative light source?
It is a source, a UV light, that shows things that can't be seen by the naked eye.
What, if anything, did your review of Government Exhibit 241 with an alternative light source show you?
It shows stains on the shirt, and there were stains by the neck area that I chose to analyze. And there were additional stains as well, but I did not analyze at the time.
Now, you said that there were stains that you did analyze that were by the neck area. On which side of the t-shirt did you identify those stains?
The inside neck area, neckline.
All right, and I'm showing the witness what's been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 241B, as in boy.
Yes.
Do you see 241B?
Yes.
Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What is that?
Those are my markings of the forensic stains that I observed on the shirt.
And is that a photograph of the t-shirt with your markings on it?
Yes.
Government offers 241B.
Any objection? No.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's in evidence.
May we publish?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, Ms. Jackson, do you have a copy in the notes that you brought with you in what's been identified as 3500 VJ 6 of the photo of that photograph?
Yes.
All right. So even though you can't see my screen, you can see in front of you. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So there is an area that appears to be identified with a number 1, a 2, and a 3. Do you see that?
Yes.
All right. What, if anything, did you name those 3 areas?
1 is Q1 stain, 2 is Q2 stain, and 3 is Q3 stain.
Okay, and where the black lines are next to 1, 2, and 3, is it inside those lines where the alternative light source revealed the presence of some type of stain?
Right. For instance, yes.
And again, just to be clear, this is on the inside of the t-shirt, not the exterior of the t-shirt, correct?
Correct.
Did you conduct a test to determine whether there was saliva present on any of the stains that you identified using the alternative light source?
Yes, on all 3 stains.
And did you use that same Fadiba's test that you testified about earlier?
Yes.
What did you conclude based on conducting the Fadiba's test?
Q1 was inconclusive. Q2 was negative. And Q3 was inconclusive as well.
Now, just to be clear, there's a portion on 241B, the photograph, that has your markings next to the 2. Is that the area that you identified as Q2?
Yes.
And you said the other 2 areas where the 1 is and where the 3 is, they were inconclusive. Is that correct?
Yes.
What do you mean? What do you mean by saying that the tests were inconclusive for the presence of saliva?
Every day that we run a Fatiba's test, we run a positive control and a negative control to make sure the test is working properly. And the positive control, the color change is a dark blue. Because it's a positive control, it wants it to be a need to see saliva, or so that you know what's going to be positive. So if I do a test stain in the color, there's a color change, but it's not as deep, as dark as that positive, we call that inconclusive.
And what, if anything, are you able to conclude regarding whether or not there was saliva present on that t-shirt or in the area?
There was.
I'm sorry, let me be clear. I'm asking about what you were able to conclude about the presence of saliva on the areas marked as Q1 and Q3.
It was inconclusive, but there was a color change. So based on that, if that was our only test, we would run it and we would forward to DNA. So it will go to further analysis for DNA. If it was negative, then there is no color change. It will not.
Now, as you sit here today, can you say whether or not there was saliva present in Q1 on Q1 or Q3?
I can say that it will indicate there. It was inconclusive, right? It's inconclusive.
So you can't.
Oh my
But
God.
there was a color change.
So you can't say for sure one way or the other. Is that correct?
Correct.
Oh my,
She done told you that 3 times.
I know.
Okay. Now, did you also conduct an examination of Government's Exhibit 241 for the presence of semen?
Yes.
And of the 3 tests that you described earlier relating to the presence of semen, which of those did you conduct?
I conducted all 3 tests on all 2 of the samples, and then only one of the tests on Q2.
Okay, so beginning with Q2, which is again, is that the area where next to where the 2 is?
It is.
What did you conclude about Q2? Whether or not it showed if there was semen present there?
No, semen was indicated from that stain.
Oh.
And how many tests did you say you performed with respect to Q1 and Q3?
I performed all 3 tests on Q1 and Q3.
And based on your performing those 3 tests, what did you conclude?
That semen was identified on Q1 and Q3.
But first she said it wasn't, right?
No, she said on Q2 was none.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, I'm confused. Okay. And you testified earlier that the microscopic analysis is a confirmatory test. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did you, in fact, review samples from Q1 and Q3 under a microscope?
Yes.
What did you see under the microscope on Q1 and Q3?
I saw sperm cells for Q1 and Q3 for those samples.
And when you say sperm, are you referring to sperm and semen?
Yes.
Objection. Overruled.
What, if anything, were you able to conclude about the quantity of semen on Q1 and Q3?
On Q1, the microscopic rating was +3. And on Q3, the microscopic rating was +4.
Now, what is the range of results that can be found found as a microscopic rating?
There's a lowest, which is negative, then trace, and it's the highest is +4.
What, if anything, is there any way in which you can describe what a rating of +4 equates to in terms of how much semen was present?
So trace would be if when I'm looking at a slide and I take the stain, the sample that I put on there, trace would be finding at 0.1 sperm cell. And it's hard to find, but semen is identified. +4, +3 is looking all over and finding sperm heads all over. And then 4 is all the fields that I look in for the sample. I'm finding many sperms, so it's easy to find. They're anywhere. Every time I move my microscope, I can see them.
And
it's not hard to find.
When you say sperm heads, what do you mean by that?
A sperm cell, spermatozoa.
Just what do you refer by the head? Is there a head and a tail? Oh, Lord, come on.
It's the sperm cell, sorry. Sperm cell, it's a sperm cell. It's the sperm. So I see sperm.
Like, I mean, she wants you to break it all the way down. Okay. What did you do once you determined that semen was present on the areas you marked as Q1 and Q3?
Just photographs of the shirt and the stain and samples to go forward in DNA analysis.
And going Government Exhibit 241, which is now in evidence, there are some cut holes in the t-shirt. Are those holes cut from where you cut the samples for Q1 and Q3?
Yes, for testing and then for further to send to DNA, yes.
Now, did you conduct the DNA analysis on the sperm that you identified on the government's Exhibit 241?
No.
No further questions.
Cross-examination?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. You are excused. Witness? Hello?
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay, bye.
Thanks a lot. That's you again.
Wait a minute. You said what? I said, okay, bye. And then what?
That was you. You supposed to say, okay, at the top. Thank you. And then I said, thanks a lot. And you said, okay, bye.
I did.
No, you forgot to say, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see that part. What line you on?
21, 22, and 23.
Okay, thank you. And then you said, thanks a lot. Then I said, okay, bye. I said that.
Yeah, but you didn't say, okay, thank you.
Bye, girl. You better come on.
Okay, are you ready to call your next witness?
Miss Shahada.
You gonna be Shahada now?
No, the government. Okay, I'll be the government now. You want to be the government still?
No, you can be the government.
Okay, you want to switch? Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be the witness.
Okay, you be the witness now. Okay, I'm the government now. Yes.
How much I got to further? I got to do something right quick, but hold on. Okay, y'all can go ahead. I'm listening, but I'll be ready. I'll be the witness.
Okay, yes, the government calls Malak bin Adala.
Okay.
Whatever.
Give us a second. I think we got to move some stuff here. Okay. Can we get the witness? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Please state your name for the record.
What's her name? Hold on.
Number 17. I did it for you because you said you had to do something right quick.
Malak bin Abdallah.
Have a seat, please. Okay, just a few ground rules before we start. Can you take your mask off? The lawyers are going to ask you questions, and our court reporter takes down everything that you say. So you've got to speak into the microphone so everyone can hear you. And the second thing is you can't speak too quickly, okay?
Okay.
And then you can also just don't speak over whichever lawyer is asking you question.
Okay.
And then if there's a question that one of the lawyers asks and you don't understand, you want to have it repeated, just let me know and I'll have them rephrase it. And then finally, just do your best to answer only the question you're being asked, okay?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Mark Madala called as a witness. Okay, you've been sworn to it. Okay, that's the court deputy.
MB called to be as a witness by the government, having been duly sworn affirmed by the courtroom deputy, was examined and testified as follows.
Good afternoon. Did you have a subpoena to testify here today?
I don't think the mic is on.
I didn't. Oh, never mind. That's just the camera.
I didn't hear.
I didn't hear.
Did you receive a subpoena to testify here today?
Yes.
Did you want to be here today?
No, not really.
How old are you?
22.
In what city did you go to high school?
Orlando.
Did you grow up in Orlando?
No.
When did you move to Orlando?
In 2014.
And approximately what time did you move to Orlando in 2014?
Around September.
Did you start that school year there?
Yes.
What school year were you entering in September 2014?
My sophomore year of high school.
Where did you go to high school?
Freedom High School.
Did you graduate from Freedom High School?
Yes.
What year did you graduate?
2017.
I'm showing what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 75. Do you see that photo?
Yes.
Without seeing I think it's supposed to be saying, without seeing the person's name, do you recognize the person in the photo?
Yes.
I'm going to show the witness and the jury only what's in evidence of Government Exhibit 75A. Is this the same photo I just showed you in Government Exhibit 75?
Yes.
And is this the true name you know this individual by?
Yes.
I'm showing the witness only what's marked as identification as Government Exhibit 75C. Is this the same photo in the two exhibits I just shown you with the same Jane in quotation marks underneath?
Yes.
I move to admit Government Exhibit 75C.
No objection. Okay, that's in evidence.
And for the purpose of your testimony here today, we are going to refer to this individual as Jane, okay?
Okay.
Now, directing your attention to your sophomore year in high school. So the year you entered school in September 2014, who were your closest friends that year?
Jane and my friend Mia.
And is Mia a nickname?
Yes.
What is Mia's full name?
Jamia.
What's her last name?
Oates.
Now, were you, Jane, and Malia all the same age?
No, Jane was a year older than us.
And when you started your sophomore year in high school, how old were you?
I was 15.
And was Jane in the same grade as you or your different grade?
No, she was a year above me and I.
So, was she a junior when you were a sophomore?
Yes.
Now, what type of things did you, Jane, and Jamia or Mia do when you hung out together in high school?
We hung out all of the time. We had lunch together and we used to hang out outside of school sometimes.
When you hang out outside of school, what types of things did you do?
We would just like go to each other's houses or get food together or like do things like that, like watch movies and stuff.
Now, what, if any, extracurricular activities do you recall Jane doing while she was in high school with you?
She used to sing. She was like in a club called the Patriot Singers.
And what, if any, performance did Jane do for her singing?
She did a lot of performances, like in front of audiences and stuff. It was like a hobby of hers.
Now, did you and Jane stay in touch throughout the high school years?
No,
What happened, or why did you stay in touch throughout your high school years?
she left and just kind of stopped contact after a while.
Around when did Jane leave?
It was May of my sophomore year.
Okay. And so you started your sophomore year in September of 2014, is that right?
Yeah.
And so would you have been May of 2014? Sorry. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. And when you say Jane left, what do you mean by that?
She left. She went to go meet with RKelly and she was gone for a while.
Now, after Jane initially left, did you or Jane stay in contact with each other?
Yeah.
And initially, how were you in contact with her?
We had like over the phone contact,
And what type of communications over the phone did you have?
like text and calls and like FaceTime calls.
And initially, how often did you communicate with Jane after she left?
We communicated often, but it just gradually lessened over time.
And at some point, did your communication with Jane stop completely?
Yes.
Around when was that?
It was around after she turned 18.
And do you recall approximately when Jane's birthday was?
Yeah, December 30th of she turned 18 when I was my sophomore year.
Now, do you recall what phone number you had when you used back in 2014 what cell phone you use?
2015, ma'am.
15.
That I used?
Yes.
Yes.
And do you still use that number today?
Yes, I do.
I'm sure the witness only what's been marked identification as government exhibit 936. What, without saying the name, without saying this number, do you recognize this number?
Yes.
And what is this? Without reading it, what is this phone number?
It's my phone number.
And is your cell phone, and is this your cell phone number?
Yes.
And is this the same number you had since 2015?
Yes.
And including 2015?
Yes.
I would like to offer government exhibits 936, the jury only.
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay.
And may we publish it for the jury only, please?
Yes.
Now, do you recall the number or numbers Jane used when you communicated with her in or around 2015?
Not off the top of my head.
Did you communicate with Jane on multiple numbers in 2015?
Yes.
I'm showing the witness only was marked out as identification as government exhibit 204. Do you recognize government exhibit 204?
Yes.
And what do you recognize it to be?
The contact that I had for Jane.
And is this a screenshot of that contact on your cell phone?
Yes.
I move to admit government exhibit 204. No objection.
Okay, that's in evidence.
May I publish it to the jury only, please?
Yes.
At the top of here indicating, is this Jane's true name?
Yes.
And can you read out what number is listed here?
708-769-0779.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm about to show you what's been marked for identification as government exhibit 205A through 205A through 205M. Prior to your testimony here today, did you have a chance to look at what I just handed you?
Yes.
And generally speaking, what are those exhibits?
They are my text messages with her.
With Jane?
With Jane, yeah.
And are those text messages from 2014 and early 2016?
Yes.
Your Honor, some of these texts are already in evidence, but I would like to offer all those 205As through 205M. Any objection?
Okay, any objection? Sorry, any objection?
No objection.
Okay, they are in evidence and you can publish them publicly. Do you want them just to the jury or how do you want them?
I think I will determine that depending on the page.
With each page?
Yes.
Okay.
May I approach to retrieve?
Sure.
Okay. Now I'm showing you government exhibit 205A. And this can be for everyone. And focusing first on the number up top. The number 407-360-4738. What is that?
That's a phone number that Jane was using at the time.
Okay. And the date of this series of text messages is October 3rd, 2015, correct?
Yes.
Now, the texts that are in gray here, are those your texts or Jane texts?
James.
And directing your attention to the second text, well, actually withdrawn. At the time of these texts, had Jane already left Orlando?
Yes.
And you had spoken to her before she left?
Before she left?
Before she left Orlando, had you spoken to her?
No.
Well,
okay. Yeah. I mean, before she left, I was still in contact with her.
Right, right. And did you have an understanding? I think you testified earlier. Do you have an understanding of where she went when she left?
Yeah.
Where did she go?
I don't know exactly where she went, but I just know that she was with RKelly.
And now directing your attention to the second text on Government Exhibit 205A, where it states, you know me, you know he nutted in me before his show today.
Ooh.
You received that text from Jane?
Yes.
And who did you understand Jane was referring to when she said he nutted in me before his show today?
She's so common. RKelly.
And what did you understand the term nutted in me to mean?
Like ejaculation? She know what it is.
I'm showing you what is in evidence as 205B. Again, is this text with the same telephone number 407-260-4738 that's Jane was using at the time?
Yes.
And the texts in gray are from Jane.
Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 205C. Are these, again, texts with Jane at the same number?
Yes.
And the gray texts are from Jane?
Yes.
Now I'm directing your attention to the portion where there's emojis of some baby bottles, and then it says, for real though, y'all gonna be the godmamas. I just hope we get married. Do you see that?
I do.
What did you understand Jane to be referring to at that time?
Her being pregnant.
And had you, apart from these text messages, had you spoken to Jane on the phone before her concerned that she may be pregnant?
Yes.
And what, if any, did she tell you at that time?
Objection. Overruled.
Of course. Every time you object is overruled. You can answer.
She said that she was like scared and that like she was scared to have an abortion and just like her being afraid.
I'm showing the jury only what is evidence as Government Exhibit 205D. Are these text messages with Jane again?
Yes.
And are those from October 5th, 2015?
Yes.
And where it is the first text where it says Mo, what does that mean?
Like, dude.
Is that a slang term you and Jane
Yes.
and Mia used?
Yes.
And what did you understand the series of the text to be about?
About her being afraid to get the abortion.
And what, if any, understanding did you have regarding who Jane believed to have made her pregnant?
She knew that.
Objection. Sustain. That's
that.
okay.
Oh.
That's okay. It's fine. Whenever I say sustain, you don't answer, okay?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 205E. Is this a additional text with Jane?
Yes.
And were these texts again about her belief that she might be pregnant?
Yes.
And when she wrote to you, she was mad when I brought it up. Who did you understand her to be referring to?
To RKelly.
Now, when you were texting with Jane in 2015, did she ever send you photographs?
Yes.
And what kind of photographs did she send you?
Photos of herself with RKelly.
Okay, are you really cutting out there?
Okay. Photos of herself and with RKelly.
And what, if any, did she ask you to do with these photographs?
She asked me to keep the photographs safe for her.
And what did you do after she got the photographs?
I screenshotted them and I saved them to on my phone.
I'm showing what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 205F. Are these again texts from Jane?
Yes.
And this is dated October 19, 2015.
Yes.
And the gray is from Jane.
Yes.
And the blue is your text.
Yes.
And can you read the first two texts?
No, keep these.
And following that, did Jane send you a series of photographs?
Yes.
And I just showed you the last page, page 8 of Government Exhibit 205F. Does the text I'm pointing to here that it says save these?
Yes.
What did you understand her to be referring to?
For me to save the photos.
Now, in your communication with Jane in 2015, withdrawn. You testified earlier you had communication with Jane using multiple numbers. Is that right?
Yes.
Meeting used different numbers. Is that right?
Yes.
And what did you have any understanding of why her numbers were changing?
Objection. Sustain.
What, if any, excuse me, just one moment. What, if any, did Jane tell you about why her numbers were changing?
Objection. Sustain.
Showing you what is in evidence as Government 205G. Are these, again, texts with Jane?
Yes.
And your texts are in blue and Jane texts are in gray.
Yes.
Can you read what you asked Jane that I'm pointing to here?
Oh, I see. You be recording your own music or no?
Why did you text Jane that?
I texted her that because, to my understanding, she was meeting with RKelly to advance her music career.
And when she was in, that you gained that understanding?
When she left?
Before she left?
Yeah.
And can you now read her response to that question from you?
She said no, but he has me singing seductive songs, kind of like.
I'm sorry, just read.
Word for word?
Yes, word for word.
Okay. Nah, but he be having me singing and shit, seductive songs, kind of like Aaliyah and shit. And he gave me songs to learn. So when I do get into the studio, I just ace it. But I'm going to sleep. Love you.
Now, you testified earlier that your communication with Jane gradually began to subside. Is that right?
Correct.
And what, if any, concerns did you have at that point?
Object as to relevance. Sustain as to form.
When your communication gradually subsided, do you still try to communicate with Jane?
I did.
I'm showing what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 205H. Are these texts from you and Jane?
Yes.
And I'll start with the first one on October 29, 2015. Does it state, "Hey boo, I hope you're doing okay. Hit me when you can, love"?
Yes.
And when did you text Jane again on November 2nd, 2015? "Baby, hit me whenever you can. Okay? I'm worried about you, ho."
Yes.
And by the way, was that blank ho, was that the term you used your friend used in high school?
Yeah, it wasn't insulting or anything. It wasn't insulting her or anything.
And no response to those two texts, correct?
Correct.
And when you followed that up with a text on November 6, 2015,
Yes.
saying you need to answer me.
Yes.
And Then again, November 8th, what did you write there? Can you read what you wrote?
I said, I really hope you're doing okay. I'll be mad as shit if you don't say happy birthday, but I know you're probably busy. Just call me when you can. Me and Mia are worried about you, babes. I love you so much.
And November 8th, does that day have a significance to you?
That's my birthday.
And me refer to here. Who is that?
Give me a Coates.
And when again, no response to the text, correct? I'm
Correct.
sorry. And when the November 11th, 2015, did you write Jane a text again? Baby, we so worried about you.
Yes.
With some crying emojis?
Yes.
Why were you concerned?
Objection. Overruled.
I was concerned because I wasn't hearing from her, and I was concerned for her safety and her whereabouts.
And prior to Jane leaving Orlando, was she someone you had been in communication with daily?
Yes.
And was she one of your best friends?
Yes.
Now I'm showing you Government Exhibit 205H again. The last text from you is from November 11, 2015, right?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 205I. Are these texts from Jane?
Yes, ma'am.
And is this the first text? All these texts from November 14, 2015?
Yes.
And was the text the next time you recall hearing from her?
Yes. Yes.
I'm showing you what is in evidence as Government Exhibit 205J. Again, are these texts between you and Jane?
Yes.
And your texts are in blue and Jane's are in gray?
Yes.
Now here's a photo where I'm pointing. Do you know where this is?
It's a video.
And do you see someone face on the video?
Yeah, that's Jamia.
And do you recall what this video was that you sent, Jane?
Yeah, it was a video of Jamia and I in the lunchroom where Jane and us used to hang out.
And why did you send that to Jane?
Oh, it was just to say hello and kind of remind her of things that we used to do.
And when LMAOOO, what do you mean?
Just like laughing my ass off.
All right. And then is there a response from Jane that I'm pointing to here?
Yes.
And what does that say?
It says, you know, y'all can't do that because he checks my phone.
Who did you understand her to be referring to when she said he checks my phone?
I understood her to be referring to RKelly.
I'm turning to the second page of the exhibit. Is this your response saying what the video?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you then say what he be saying if he sees the video?
Yes.
Why were you asking that?
Objection. Overruled.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. What made you ask that in the text message?
Oh, because I was wondering why I should send her a video.
And how did she respond? What did she write?
She said, he's going to be like, why is that your best friend when you said you be texting your cousin?
And who did you understand Jane to be referring to when she used the term your cousin?
Myself.
And are you Jane's cousin?
No, we are not.
And what, if any, did you understand her to mean by this text?
That to RKelly's knowledge, I am her cousin and Jamia is her best friend.
And was the something had you discussed Jane before?
Yes.
And you respond, oh, I see.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there's a response from Jane.
Yes.
And I think the full response is on this on this next page. I'll just turn to that. Can you read out what's written here?
I just don't want to have to block your number because he thinks I'm being immature. That's why I deleted apps and everyone's phone number and everyone's number because I gotta show some age now that I'm with a 48-year-old. so doing doing so has made me grow out of a lot of young habits. Just don't want to ruin the one shot I have at being able to talk to you. I love you.
And what did you understand Jane to mean when she said she didn't want to ruin the one shot she had of being able to talk to you?
Objection. Overruled.
I understood that I guess it was hard for her to be able to have communication with us. And if I didn't uphold the fact that I'm her cousin and me her friend and we're not supposed to know each other, it will ruin her chance to be able to speak with me.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 205K. Are these again texts between you and Jane? These ones are from December 28, 2015.
Yes.
And the gray is Jane and the blue is you.
Yes.
And Jane asked you how your Christmas was
Yes.
and indicating her birthday is in 2 days.
Yes.
And did you then ask her what she got for Christmas using a term from your hubby?
Uh-oh. Hubby?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Who are you referring to?
I was referring to RKelly.
And did she then tell you the gift she had gotten from him?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's marked in the Government Exhibit 205M. Are these texts between you and Jane?
Yes.
And blue is you and the gray is Jane?
Yes.
Actually, I'm sorry. Can we show this to the jury only, please? Now, I'd like to direct your attention to the text from January 8, 2016 at 11:18 a.m. Are these texts in blue from you to Jane?
Yes.
And what I'm pointing to here, those two letters, is that an abbreviation of Jane's name?
Yes, it is.
And when you wrote, Mia always be like, abbreviation for Jane's name, text me and I'll be salty. What were you referring to here, there?
I was saying that Mia always tells me that Jane texts her and she hasn't been texting me and that I feel upset because of it.
And did Jane then respond to your text?
Yes.
And she wrote, miss you too, and calls you, don't know how to play stuff yet?
Yes. Don't know how to play stuff yet. Yes.
And then it continued here.
Yes.
And among the things she wrote was texting, you will get me caught up.
Yes.
Just like now, if I was with him and you mentioned Mia's name, that will start some shit. You're going to learn how to use code, baby G.
Yes.
Baby G, what does that mean?
Baby girl.
And the him in the text, who do you understand that to be referring to?
To RKelly.
And did you respond to these texts, to her text in blue here?
Yes.
And among the things you wrote was, how would that start shit? Don't he know we are friends?
Uh-huh.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And did you write, what did you write below?
I said, even though you're my cousin, doesn't mean we can't associate with the same people. Laughing emoji.
And what were you conveying in these texts?
I was still confused about why I had to hide the fact that I knew Jamia.
And is this what I'm pointing to here? The text from January 8, 2016, is that a response from Jane?
Yes.
And where it says in here, he thinks y'all don't know each other and don't want me texting her because he knows she's my BFF and thinks I will tell her everything I see. This what I mean. You don't know how to put two and two together.
Yes.
And when you responded, you never told me he don't know. We all know each other.
Yes.
After receiving these texts, were you confused?
Yes.
Why were you confused?
I was confused because, like I said, I just didn't understand why I had to hide the fact that her and I and Jamia were all friends.
Miss Shahata, I have got about 15 minutes over afternoon break. I like to give our jurors a little bit of break. Is it a good time, a stopping point?
Sure.
Sorry about that. All right. We're just going to be in recess for about 10 minutes. Please don't talk about the case, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, everyone can sit down and can take the witness out. We'll see you in a few minutes. Witness excuse. I'm going to ask my standard. Do you know about how long you have?
10 or 15 minutes.
Mr. Canick, is this your witness?
I'm sorry.
Is this your witness?
Yes.
Do you know what ballpark that you've got?
No more than 15 minutes.
Okay. We'll maybe have time for another witness.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. I'll see you in about 10 minutes. All right. All right. Let's get the witness back. And let's get the jury, please. All right, folks. We're ready to resume with the direct examination of your witness. Go ahead. Oh, the witness is reminded that she's still under oath.
Yes, okay.
Now, before the break, we were testifying about various text messages exchanged between you and Jane, correct?
Yes.
From 2015 and early 2016, correct?
Yes.
And what kind of phone did you have at the time? What brand of phone?
An iPhone.
Is that an Apple product?
Yes, it is.
Now, you testified earlier that in addition to the text message communicating with Jane, you also communicated with her phone call and FaceTime in 2015 and 16, right?
Yes.
And can you explain what is FaceTime?
It's like a video chat.
And in any of your FaceTime with Jane in 2015 or 2016, was RKelly present for any of those?
No.
Have you ever met RKelly?
No.
Are you familiar with Jane, with the name Juice?
Yeah.
What, if anything, did Jane tell you about Juice?
Objection. Overruled.
She told me that she was somebody that was there with her through all her time with R. Kelly.
Did she tell you anything else?
Yeah. She said that like in the beginning when she first went, the Juice like was supposed to like teach her how to please her and him.
Now, you testified earlier that at some point Jane sent you photographs and asked you to save them. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm going to show the witness only what's been marked as identification as Government Exhibit 254A through K.
Okay.
May we approach, Your Honor?
We don't have any objection to them being turned over into evidence. All right. Turn on your mic for me. Do you have any objection? No objection. We'll have it into evidence.
And I was just going to show you. May I approach, Your Honor? I want to make sure she knows what I've got.
Sure.
Just take a look at them. Are these photographs you received from Jane on your cell phone?
Yes.
And what, if any, did you do with the photographs after you received them?
I saved them to my phone.
And did you save them anywhere else?
No, they're on my phone.
All right. I'm showing you 254A. Who is in the photo?
Jane.
I'm showing 254B, 254C, 254D, 254E, 254J, F, 254G, 254H, 254I, 254J, and 254K. Now, other than saving these photos, did Jane ask you to do anything else with them?
She just wanted me to keep them safe for her in case she needed them in the future.
And what do you understand by her to mean that?
Objection. Sustained.
Did you receive texts from her calls from Jane from different numbers
Yes.
in 2015 and 16?
Yes.
Now, when you receive phone calls or FaceTime from Jane as a general matter, around what time of day would you receive these calls?
Generally later at night or early in the morning.
And what do you mean by that? Later at night or early in the morning?
Like, I really wouldn't talk to her throughout the day. It would be like at one time of the day, either early or really late.
Now, after you lost contact or after I'm thinking you testified earlier, the communication with Jane at some point stopped. Is that correct?
Yes.
And after your communication with Jane stopped, or let me ask you this. Around how old were you when your communication with Jane stopped?
I was like 16.
And after your communication with Jane stopped, did you make a report to law enforcement about Jane?
No.
And why didn't you do that?
Honestly, I just didn't really want to get involved in what she was doing.
And why didn't you want to get involved?
Objection. Overruled. Actually, can I see you, the lawyers at the side with the court reporter, for just a second? What she's going to say?
She was scared to get involved.
What's the relevance of that? I think she just didn't want to get involved.
But it's left where the impression that the last thing she said was, I didn't want to get involved in what she was doing. I think that leaves a misleading impression to the jury. Oh, that's you. I'm sorry.
That's
Okay.
you. That's you.
Okay, to the jury. Okay, so then you can it.
Yeah, just ask the question.
Okay, just ask the question. And I've had a follow-up.
Thank you, Your Honor. She said she did. Judge, you're beating me mercilessly. I just did not know, or should have known, should have asked her to answer. The fact that she was scared, maybe scared of him?
Well, she was scared. He was a high-profile person. She was scared of him.
I mean, she making stuff up.
She said
she never met him.
Right, like how you scared of somebody you never met?
Can I read y'all? Come on.
Oh, sorry.
She can say she didn't want to get involved because it's a high-profile nature. That's basically the whole. Your Honor, I don't see the relevance of her state of mind at all. But if you're going to allow it, I think this is certainly not trying to step into their shoes. But I think that leave it alone. It's really not relevant. And that she was scared. It really isn't, and it's prejudicial. Let's not. Let's take a long view. It's all good. I'll just tell you to move on to something else. And I will look like I kept you from doing it. All right. I think it's best to move on to something else.
One moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
No further questions.
Okay. Cross-examine. Very briefly, Your Honor. Your mic. Oh, okay. The next question you received from Jane.
Your
Your
microphone. I'll be the court now. Because
Okay.
now you're Canic and she's still the witness.
Okay.
Your microphone, is it on?
Yes.
Okay.
The text messages that you received from Jane, you don't know the truth of it all, correct? Do you know if they were true or not?
I don't know.
Right. I mean, you received them. You know that what she was telling you was the actual truth, right?
I don't know.
You just received it from her and you responded.
Yes.
Now, you were asked a short while ago about what time you would get calls from or communication from Jane. And you mentioned that it would be either early in the morning or late at night. Do you remember telling that?
Yes, I do.
Now, you were in school at the time, or am I correct?
Yes.
And your school hours.
Excuse me.
Hmm?
After you read that last line, let me see. After you read, let me see. What page you on?
I'm on page 1415.
1415. Let me see. Hold on, 1415. For some reason, 1415 didn't come up. It jumps to 1416. Okay.
You got it.
Let me know. If I don't have no part in that, just let me know. Or do my part until we get to 1416 line 1. Because I don't have 1416. It didn't upload in the
1415 you don't have?
No, it jumped all because it was a whole page missing. Then it jumped to 1416.
Maybe you have to slow it down, come back into it. It might pop up.
Nope, it says can't preview file. There's a problem loading this page. So just let me know when you at 1416 on line 1. That's all. It's only one page, so we're not gonna worry about it.
All right. I lost my spot now. We are number 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now you were in school at the time. Am I correct?
Yes.
And your school hours were during the middle of the day. Am I correct? To late afternoon?
Correct.
So when you were available, that could be very early in the morning or late at night. Am I correct?
No.
Well, what time would you get home from school?
Well, I have my phone on me all day. If somebody's wanting to communicate with me, I'll communicate with them, especially if it was her.
But you knew that she would sleep, go to bed basically during the day. Am I correct? Objection.
Sustained.
That was you, objection, you know. Oh, no, it wasn't.
Yeah, she don't have that page, remember?
Okay. There was a text between you and her that was read a short while ago. And at the bottom of the text, it says, "I'm sleeping." Remember seeing that?
She said she was sleeping.
Or someone said, "I'm going to bed."
Yes.
You remember seeing that, right?
I don't remember which one exactly.
But do you remember seeing it?
Objection.
Did you see the text?
I believe so.
Can we show her the text message again? I'm going to show you what's been admitted into evidence as 205J. Can you read the bottom of that?
Laugh out loud. I'm just watching TV, about to sleep.
What time is that?
It's not listed what time.
What time is that?
3:14 p.m.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you so much. You can step down. Are you ready to call your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
The government calls Tom Arnold.
That was her.
Oh, the government calls Tom Arnold.
Raise your right hand. Thomas Arnold, called as a witness, having been firstly duly sworn, affirmed, was examined and testified as follows.
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Tom Arnold.
Thank you. You may be seated. Hold on for a second. 1 second, Mr. Arnold. Okay, Mr. Arnold, can you take your mask off? All right. The lawyers are going to ask you some questions. Couple of things I want to keep you in mind. The first is I'd like you to speak slowly and make sure you use the mic. I want to make sure that the jurors can hear you, and I want to make sure that the court reporters can take down everything that you say. And because I don't want to make their jobs too difficult, I'm going to ask that you let whichever lawyer is questioning finish the question before you start answering. That way, we're not talking over one another. Is there a question that you may have repeated or that you don't understand? Let me know and I'll have the lawyer rephrase it. And just to do your best to answer the specific question that are being asked, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. How far did you go in school?
I attended the University of Nebraska at Omaha for a few years. Then I graduated and went to school called Conservatory Record of Recording Arts and Science, which is an audio engineering school.
Okay. Pull the mic a little bit closer to you. Just slow it down a little bit. All right?
Okay. Should I repeat the whole thing again?
That's okay. Go ahead.
Did you finish the program at the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences?
Yes, I did.
How long was that program?
It was about a 4-month program.
Were you awarded any type of certificate or degree?
Yes, it was a certificate.
And what?
Audio engineering.
When did you receive that certificate?
August of 1998.
And as part of that program, were you required to participate in an internship?
Yes, a formal internship.
Did you in fact do an internship?
Yes, I did.
In what city did you do the internship?
Chicago.
And where was it?
It was a Chicago track recording.
And is that a recording studio?
Yes.
When did you begin at Chicago Tracks?
September of 1998.
Now, do you recall the address where Chicago Tracks was located?
I do.
What was it? What is it?
865 North Laramie.
When you started at Chicago Tracks in September of 1998, were there any artists who used that recording studio on a long-term basis?
Yes, there was a brand called Ministry and RKelly.
Do you see RKelly in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Can you please point to him and describe an article of his clothing?
Yes, he's wearing a brown shirt.
Indicating the defendant.
Now, when you started at Chicago Tracks, were you working for the defendant?
No, I worked for Chicago Track.
Did you eventually start to work for the defendant?
I did some odd jobs, maybe some runs, some errands of taking that car down someplace from time to time for money, but otherwise I work for Chicago Track exclusively.
Did there come a time where you did work for the defendant exclusively?
Yes.
How did that come about?
Chicago Track went out of business, and then I came to work for a short period of time with a new studio called the Chocolate Factory.
Now, was the Chocolate Factory located in the same building where Chicago Tracks had been?
That's correct.
At 865 North Laramie?
That's correct.
Do you recall when it was that you started working exclusively for the defendant at the Chocolate Factory?
I say March of 2003.
Now, for how long did you work for the defendant?
Into 2008, and then so till January 2008, went back again in May 2008 to October 2011.
So fair to say you worked from 2003 to 2011 with a couple month break in 2008.
Yes.
By the way, the Chocolate Factory where you worked for the defendant, was that the same actual recording studios that were in Chicago Tracks?
Yes, the studios. The studio rooms, the building has similar names. Some of the gear would have been removed because it belonged to Chicago Track.
All right, but same building, same studio, fair to say.
Fair to say.
When you started working for the defendant exclusively at the Chocolate Factory on Laramie, what were your responsibilities? What did you do?
I was a studio manager. I looked after the building for any sort of maintenance repairs, anything to be done with the building. And the studio manager's job would be to help staff, the phone position, make sure there was runners, provide petty cash for supplies that were needed, and to help out engineers, the assistant engineers, the same to need assistance with documentation and anything they need help with.
You mentioned that you looked after the building. Is that the recording studio on North Laramie?
Yeah, it was a 20,000 square foot building that had multiple rooms in it. And so there would be some needs to maintain, hire maintenance people and repairs, stuff like that. So I will be responsible for that.
You also said that there was a phone position. What do you mean by that?
There will be a reception area. There will always be someone to answer the phones of kind to monitor the gate. Anybody came into the building, past phone calls, messages, if somebody was to call.
Now, were you responsible for answering the phones?
Sometimes.
Were there other individuals who also answered phones at the Chocolate Factory when it was on North Laramie?
Yes, there will be a phone position as well.
You use the term runner. What do you mean by that?
It was the term we used, the sort of a pay intern position, a person entry level trying to become an assistant engineer or just, a job in the studio. The job would be to go and get food for people, go buy supplies, anything that's required.
Now, you testified earlier that you served as the studio manager. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you have any additional titles while you were working for the defendant?
No, not at the Chocolate Factory, but later on, I was also a road manager.
And what do you mean by road manager?
When we travel for tours or for appearances or things like that, I will be responsible for coordinating the buses, our staff, and supplies. And there was a destination for us all to go to. Would you know exactly where we going to and communicate to all the travel parties? If we had a hotel, I would advance to pick up the room key at the hotel.
Now, you said that you didn't hold this position until after the Chocolate Factory at North Laramie. Is that correct?
After the building of North Laramie was, the building was ultimately torn down in the studio. The Chocolate Factory moved to Olympia Fields. I started traveling around the same time for the first time.
All right. So you testified that when you started working for the defendant, you were at the recording studio that was called the Chocolate Factory at 865 North Laramie. What happened to that building?
It was demolished. The building, as I recall, was in bankruptcy. The people that owned the building, and it was sold. So we had to move the studio out there. And then they ultimately demolished the building.
When was the Chocolate Factory moved out of 865 North Laramie approximately?
I would say 2004. It could be, yeah, I would say early 2004.
Fair to say you don't remember the exact date?
No, not the exact date.
Okay, and when the Chocolate Factory was not at 865 North Laramie, I think you mentioned Olympia Fields. What is Olympia Fields? What are you referring to?
Olympia Fields is a suburb of Chicago where Mr. Kelly had a home, a studio.
And was the recording studio at the defendant's home in Olympia Fields?
Yes. At the time the Chocolate Factory moved to Olympia Fields, there was one studio in the basement.
And what was the name of the recording studio when it was at Olympia Fields?
It was called the Chocolate Factory.
All right, so when I refer to the Chocolate Factory at 865 North Laramie, I will be referring to that one. And then I'll make clear when I'm referring to the Chocolate Factory at Olympia Fields, all right?
Yes.
What, if any, responsibilities did you have with respect to the defendant's personal life?
And sometimes, at what time?
Well, let's start when you were working at the Chocolate Factory at 865 North Laramie.
Objection. Overruled. There would be.
I'm muted.
If people come to the studio, if I had to receive a phone call, if somebody come to the gate, I will be responsible to make sure I notify Mr. Kelly that someone was there at the gate for him. I will be instructed to what actions were required on that. Stock food for his lounge, stock food for the bus, go on runs, maybe perhaps like go to buy supplies in the store or something, or maybe go to the office and pick up a check or petty cash for something personal.
All right. Was one of your responsibilities to go on runs to transport individuals?
Yes, that could be. That would be asked. Yes.
Was it asked?
Yes.
And who were the individuals that you were transporting?
It would be a guest. It would be someone that was there to play basketball, a musician. It would be a variety of people, but whoever was required to get a ride.
And on a day-to-day basis, who were you transporting?
Primarily, it would be guests.
And when you say guests, what are you referring to?
The females that had to come to the studio or that were coming to see Mr. Kelly.
Okay, so these were guests of the defendants.
Yes.
Between where and where would you transport the defendant's female guests?
It could be from anywhere. From at 865 Laramie, it would be much less likely that I will go somewhere to pick up somebody up. It was much more likely that somebody came to the studio, but I could have picked up somebody up at a home or a business, or brought them to the studio. It could have been picking up somebody up at the gym. A place where he was playing, basketball, bringing to and from the studio.
Oh, what is this? But I could.
Number 2.
Oh, okay, you already did it right. How would you know that you were wanted to bring a guest from one place to another?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yes. Who, if anyone, would tell you to pick up somebody somewhere?
I would get a direct from Rob or somebody that would be near him, or would call and tell me that is needed to be done. And if there was If there was something of music to go, I will go do it. Otherwise, I might be told to pass the information on to somebody else to make the run.
And when you say you could hear from someone who was close to him, what do you mean by that?
That would be with him. Someone like I know that will be with him and get the instruction directly from him.
And by with him, do you mean someone who was physically with him?
Primarily. It was to be somebody that could get a hold of him if I couldn't get a hold of him by calling his number. It was much more me reaching out to him, directing after 865 North Laramie. At 865 North Laramie, I would get mainly phone calls, if that makes sense.
Who did you receive inbound phone calls from?
It could be from Mr. Kelly or from somebody who has traveled with him or able to get a hold of him.
And who were some of the individuals who were at 865 North Laramie who would communicate messages to you from the defendant? So when you weren't talking to the defendant directly?
It would be one of the recording engineers. I received calls from them. I would receive the information from his music director, one of his assistants at the time.
And just to be clear, I want to talk about messages that you will receive related to the defendant's personal guests. Would you receive messages from the defendant's musical director related to the defendant's personal guests?
I may get a yes. Sorry, yes.
Who was the defendant's musical director?
It was Donnie Lyle.
And you also mentioned that sometimes you will receive messages from the defendant's assistants. Were those messages related to his personal guests at times?
At times, yes.
Who was the defendant's? Who were you referring to when you said the defendant's assistants? And again, I'm talking about the time you were working at 865 North Laramie for the defendant.
So June Brown, there was a guy named John Levy who was his security assistant security. Sometimes it would be the same person, you know. Sorry, sometimes the security person will deliver the same messages, but generally it will come from like June Brown or from, I can't think of another name right now. I'm sorry.
Okay, what if any protocols did you follow when you were transporting the defendant's guests?
Transporting them?
When you were driving one of the defendant's female guests, what, if anything, would you do?
Oh, you open the door for them and let them go into the car, and then you would turn your rear view mirror up and turn the radio to a reasonable volume, not too loud.
And when you say that you would turn the rear view mirror up by you, are you referring to you, Tom Arnold?
If I was driving, I would turn the rearview mirror up myself.
And by turning the rearview mirror up, could you see out the rearview window?
No.
Why would you turn the rearview mirror up?
To avoid accidental eye contact.
Eye contact with him?
Whoever would be in the vehicle.
Who would be in the vehicle that you were trying to avoid eye contact with?
It was a guest.
Any guess?
Yes.
And why did you turn up the rearview mirror?
That would be the instructions that I was given when I started, or the instruction that I would pass on to another runner. Just the protocol was to always follow these steps.
And when you said those were the instructions that you were given when you started, who gave you those instructions?
Initially, probably whoever was the first one to pass the job on to me, or the person to ask me to go on a run, pick up somebody.
And just to be clear, when you were trying to avoid contact with the defendant's guests, are you referring to defendant's female guests?
Yes, female guests.
If there was a male guest, would you need to turn up the rearview mirror?
Probably I would not. I would not have to turn up the rearview mirror.
One of the defendant's female guests arrived at the chocolate factory at North Laramie. What was the routine for letting that person in?
Oftentimes, we will have often instructions before someone arrived as to what to do. But if I hadn't received instructions, we will call Mr. Kelly or call someone that will get an answer to let us know how to act with the person when they arrive.
What type of instructions would you have already received from Mr. Kelly, or would you get once the guests arrive by reaching out to Mr. Kelly?
To open the gate from the person and take them up to a particular location in the studio.
Who would decide in the studio? Who would decide where in the studio to take a guest?
I would.
The defendant?
Yes.
And when one of the defendant's female guests arrived at the chocolate factory on North Laramie, what, if anything, would you do before bringing the guest to a particular location within the studio?
Depending on the time frame over the course of the time in which we were at the studio, there was a time at which confidentiality agreements were required.
What do you mean by confidentiality agreements?
There was a document that people were required to sign when they visit the studio.
And what did you understand to be in this document that you're calling the confidentiality agreement?
It was said not to while you were here. You are not going to record anything or take photographs or share information about your experience at the studio.
And you said once there was a time when guests were required to sign these confidentiality agreements. So that wasn't in place for the entire time that you were working for the defendant at 865 North Laramie. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, what, if anything, would a guest provide to you or another employee at the chocolate factory when it was on North Laramie, in addition to signing the confidentiality agreement?
We will either take a Polaroid of the person, take the photo of the person that take the photo Polaroid and staple it to the agreement, and else we will photo copy a driver's license and attach it to the agreement.
And how would you know to take a Polaroid versus get a driver's license?
It kind of depends on the timing. It started out asking the driver's license if a number of guests when I first started that process. I don't know when it would switch back and forth, but I know that there were instances where we would be at a party or a function at a studio and we would take Polaroids instead of driver's license. And I don't remember the specifics.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What did you say?
I don't remember the specific times that was a formal switch from one to the other.
What did you understand the purpose to be by obtaining the driver's license?
Objection. Overrule.
What did you understand the purpose to be for? You can answer the question. I'll repeat it though. What did you understand the purpose to be for obtaining a driver's license from a guest?
To verify that the name of the driver's license matched the signature on or the name of the person that is signing the agreement.
Now, during the time frame that you were having guests sign confidentiality agreements, was that always the case? Where against always required to sign confidentiality agreements during that particular time period where you were having guests do it?
Prior to the policy of starting to do it, no one would have done it. Once the policy was started, the whole rest of the time we were at 865 Laramie. We'll have to ask people to sign confidentiality agreements.
And I'm just asking, did you always follow that policy?
Not necessarily.
You said that you testified earlier that when a guest arrived at 865 North Laramie, you would determine from speaking with the defendant where to bring a particular guest. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Once a guest was brought or escorted to a particular location within 865 North Laramie, What, if any, interaction would you have with the defendant's female guest?
In many instances, none whatsoever.
Why not?
That's there. If there wasn't, if I would head back down to the reception where I would be sitting waiting for the next call. And if there was no calls or communication, that would be until, I don't know, unless the phone rang.
And the defendant's guest, I'm sorry, when you said unless the phone rang,
Yeah.
what are you referring to?
There was a main number in the reception that had multiple phone lines so people could call in.
And did the defendant's female guest sometimes call that phone at the front desk reception area?
Yes.
And what are some of the reasons that the defendant's guest would call that front desk area?
Probably either to ask us to get us food or to ask to speak to Mr. Kelly.
And what would you do when a guest called for food?
There was always petty cash in the reception for food runners to be able to get the food when the food order came through.
And how about when a guest wanted to speak with the defendant?
You would write a message or on a sheet of paper and say what line the person was on, and you run the message through Mr. Kelly.
Aside from phone calls from the defendant's female guests looking for the defendant or looking for food, what other reasons would you receive phone calls for?
Hard to say. Mostly, I don't know. It would have been anything. People have asked to be given a ride home, asked to move to another room, I suppose, but primarily would be to to speak to Mr. Kelly, and then we would get whatever following. You would speak to a person, or then we get another phone call back to get instruction as to what to do with the person.
So I want to talk about when you received a phone call from a female guest of the defendant who was ready to leave. What, if anything, would you do when you received such a phone call?
If we receive notification ahead of time that to prepare for expectation of a phone call to take the person home, that would be the action we take. Otherwise, we have to go to and get a hold of Mr. Kelly and ask if it was okay to leave and take them home.
All right, so let's take your first scenario first. Do you mean that on occasion the defendant would have already told you that it was okay, that you should expect someone to call and ask to go to a particular place?
Yeah, directly or indirectly.
And when you say directly or indirectly, what do you mean?
Either Rob will call to say when a person calls to take them home, or someone who was with him or nearby will have passed the message along from him to us at the studio saying Rob says it's okay to take that person home.
Okay. How long are we on?
25, the last.
Okay. Can 439 be the last page we read tonight, ladies?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you say someone who was with him,
439, 40 at the top part.
okay, are you referring to the individual that you talked about earlier, such as the defendant's musical director or his assistant?
Yes, or the studio engineer.
Now, I want to talk about the second scenario you proposed, where one of the defendant's female guests called wanting to leave, but you had not already received instructions from the defendant, prior instructions from the defendant. What would you do in that event?
Try to call his number or run a message to him to let him know that a person had called to ask to leave. He will give us instructions.
And when you say his phone and he would give you instructions, who is he and his in those two sentences?
Sure, he would try to call Rob or get permission and instructions.
And if you couldn't reach Rob, what would you do?
We'd call somebody else that may be able to get a hold of him, or another individual that I mentioned before. If he was in the studio, he would just wait until we were able to get into the studio to pass him a message to let him know.
While you were working for the defendant at 865 North Laramie, would you receive phone calls from the defendant's guests to guests who were inside of the 865 North Laramie looking to go to the bathroom?
Yes, we would have.
That's it.
Okay, so we
Thank you,
don't.
ladies and gentlemen, for this evening.
You
We will
don't want to
continue.
finish that. You don't want to finish this one. You don't want to push through this one just to get
I
to
wanted to, but she said she wanted to stop.
14. That way you can start on
A fresh one. Well, okay.
a fresh
Me
question.
and you would do it. Come on, let's do this.
Okay. Y'all have a good night.
Good night. Okay. Spin fire. Which one will
Okay,
you
so
do?
you on number 3.
All right.
Yeah, no, number 4.
Okay. I'm going to ask the question. Okay.
Yeah.
What, if anything, would you do when you receive such a phone call?
That's that same process. If we would have given previous instructions to escort someone for anything they called for, we would action it. Or if not, we would pass the message on or reach out to him to find one.
And just to be clear, when you said that if you receive prior instruction, you would action it, do you mean you would go ahead and do what the person asked?
Yes.
And if you hadn't received prior instruction, who would you call?
We either run a message to the studio to ask Rob, or else call his phone if he wasn't there.
And what was the purpose in reaching out to the defendant?
To pass a message along from the guest, or pass along their request.
To go to the bathroom, correct?
If that was the request, we would call and pass the message along to find out the action. There you go.
And just to be clear, though, on occasion, that was the request, correct?
Yes.
And showing the witness only what's marked as identification as Government Exhibit 235. And this is on one side. And I'm going to flip it over so you can see the other side as well.
All right.
Do you recognize what is shown in Government Exhibit 235?
Yes, it's the floor plan of Chicago tracks at 865 North Laramie.
Okay. And is this also the floor plan for the chocolate factory was at 865 North Laramie?
Yes, it's structure of the building is the same.
And did you provide this to the government?
Yes.
The government offers 235.
No objection. Okay, that would be in evidence. Do you want to publish it?
Yes, please. I'm going to start with the first side. I would like you to describe for the jury what is shown in Government Exhibit 235. And I'm going to start by putting up my pen on something which is upside down, indicating, but if you can read it upside down, it says main interest. What is that?
Yes, this is the first floor of the building, and that would be the main, as it's labeled, the main entrance into the studio.
And
the building.
You talked about the reception area where some of the guests would call to make some of the requests that you just discussed. There is a section called reception. Where my pen is now, sort of on the right next to the main entrance. Is this where that was located?
That's correct.
And where the Government Exhibit 235, would you spend your time when you were in, a stationary spot in 865 North Laramie?
Just the next room over from your pen is where was my office. So I either be in a reception or in that office.
And by that office, you mean where my pen is pointed, indicating right to the left of the reception area?
Yes,
And if I continue to move my pen to the left of where your office was, what is that indicating?
that's the engineer's office.
And by the way, when you're referring to the engineer, are you referring to a particular engineer?
The audio engineers.
All right. And during the time when you were working for the defendant, were there the same engineer or did they change over time?
They changed over time. It was a few people that were there the duration, but there was quite a few people at 865 North Laramie location.
Who were the engineers and who were the 865 North Laramie that continued to work as engineers for the defendant over the duration that you worked for the defendant?
So I am Morenis and Abel Jaribaldi were engineers for a long time. They were, I'm trying to think who else. There was a guy named Jeff.
Do you remember Jeff's last name?
I don't. He was there for most of the time, for quite a long time at the chocolate factory in Olympia's Fields.
And I think you testified that in addition, there was other engineers who were there for a shorter period of time. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Across from the reception area where I have my pen, do you recall what was the location there?
There was the office of the owner of Chicago Tracks, and it remains sort of an office or lounge in the chocolate factory time.
And when you're referring to the owner of Chicago Tracks, who was that?
His name was Reed Yimes.
And once the defendant took over the Chicago Tracks, then the Chicago Tracks became the chocolate factory. Did Reed Himes stay at 865 Laramie?
No.
So once it became the chocolate factory in 865 North Laramie, what was this room that was once Reed Himes' office? What was that used for?
There, it was used for a variety of different lounges. Security would have used it as a lounge at times. It would have been, we have put guests in there from time to time. It was used for a variety of different purposes. I think his uncle Junebug had that as his lounge at one point in time as well.
And then on this floor plan, there is like an open area right there. What does that indicate?
There's a hallway that passes through where your pen was, where it says Chicago Tracks. That will be the hallway.
And then up through there, indicating?
That's the entrance. That's the entrance to the office.
Was it an open entrance?
No, there had been a door.
Okay. So even though it's not shown there, there was a door that would shut. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then how about right next to Reed Himes' old office? What is that?
It would have been a storage room. I believe it was a security lounge as well. There was quite a few. I think actually Big John Levy actually had that as his lounge at one point.
All right. And just to be clear, I should ask this at the beginning. Is this, does this part of a government exhibit 235, does this show the first floor of 865 North Laramie?
Yes, there is the first floor.
And are there other, you talked earlier about that you would or other runners would escort some of the defendant's female guests to a particular location within 865 Laramie. On the first floor, you already talked about one location being Reed Himes' old office, and that would serve as a lounge for the defendant's guests. Were there any other areas on the first floor that you recall being used as a location where you would bring defendant's female guests?
In the section marked Rockland Records, at some point towards the end of the period, we were at 865 North Laramie. That would have been used for guests as well.
And so I want to make sure that I show the right area. Is that where my pen is pointed, indicating where it says Rockland Records Production Office area? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, it would have been at that. It would have been a production area, but also been used as a lounge at some point.
And now, was that the enclosed space with a door, or was that an open area?
That as is drawn is all open, but there would have been doors into a large open room.
All right. So, in fact, it was an enclosed area with a door. Is that correct?
Yes, there would have been a door into that room.
Okay. On the first floor, were there other locations where the defendant's guests might have been escorted to?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I'm now going to turn to the second side, just to be consistent. Actually, I'll put it right side up. Are there locations on the second floor where the defendant's guests might be escorted to?
Yes.
Can you describe where they were in this diagram or on this floor plan?
The one called the Room 1, Music 1 control room would have been the primary recording studio where Rob would be recording. That would be where the engineers would be. So we may bring a guest to that room.
And you are referring to where my pen is pointed, indicating it's Music 1 control room?
Yes.
And is that in a closed location with a door, or is it an open space?
Yes, there's 2 doors to that room, one on each side towards the back of the room.
And both of those doors can shut?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other location on this page of this government exhibit where the defendant's female guests may have been escorted to?
Yes. The Music 1 studio area.
Is that right here, indicating where my pen is pointed?
It is.
And says Music 1 studio area.
It is.
And again, is that in a closed space?
Yes.
By enclosed space, I mean where a door could be shut for privacy?
Yeah, there are doors on both sides of that room.
All right. What other location on this second floor might one of the defendant's female guests be escorted to?
Yes, moving to the top of the page, Music 1 Lounge would have been his main lounge.
And when you say his, who are you referring to?
Mr. Kelly's.
And you said it was the defendant's main lounge. Would that also be the location where you would bring one of the defendant's female guests?
Yes.
All right. There's also an area to that call office, Music 1 office. What, if any, was that used for?
It was his office. So there had been a desk, a phone, and office equipment in that room.
And again, just for the record, you say his. Are you referring to the defendant?
I am.
And where the defendant's female guests were escorted to that one office, Music One office?
I don't know.
You don't.
I don't know.
Do you recall even ever happening?
I can't. I don't. I don't know whether it happened or not.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. If it did, it was certainly with less frequency. Music One Lounge would have been more I'm sorry, I don't recall for sure.
Okay. Are there other areas on this second floor where the defendant's female guests of the defendant might be escorted to?
Yes, both the Capricorn room and the Capricorn studio area.
Oh, all right. So, is there something called the Capricorn control room that's labeled? There is a Capricorn lounge and there is a Capricorn studio area. When you mention the Capricorn studio area, are you referring to the one that's labeled Capricorn studio area?
Yes. Where your pen is.
And again, is that an enclosed location where the doors can be shut for privacy?
Yes, there was doors inside that room.
And you also said the Capricorn room. What were you referring to when you said that?
The Capricorn room.
Control room.
I mean, Capricorn control room.
And is that where my pen is pointed right now, indicating?
Yes.
And was there a means to shut the door there also for privacy?
Yes, there was one door to that room.
Aside from the rooms that you have identified on this second floor, were there other locations where defendant's female guests might be escorted?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Now, you testified earlier about certain rooms that were closed, that was called the lounge area. What do you mean by lounge?
The room will have a couch, television, a stereo in it. For like in the Chicago track days, would be meant for a place where the artist to separate out of have somebody waiting to go inside the studio before they could be recording.
Okay.
So the same concept at the chocolate factory as well. There will be a room for somebody to stay in.
Now, of rooms that you're just identified, and I'll start with the first page in the government's 230 exhibit 235. And I'm going to put my pen on the location that you identified across from the reception area as Reed Himes' old office. Was there a bathroom attached to this lounge or that office space?
No.
You also you also talk about this space that's labeled Rockland Records Production Office Area. Was there a bathroom attached to that space?
Yes.
Where's the bathroom?
Just to the left of your pen, it says breast room.
Okay. Where my pen is pointed there, indicating?
Yes.
And now, if I turn the exhibit over in Music One control room, which I believe you said was one area where you might escort a female guest, is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a bathroom attached to that room?
No.
And how about Music One lounge? Is there a bathroom attached to that one?
Yes.
Where is that?
Just to the right where it's labeled restroom, behind the kitchen.
And by the way, is there a means to get to the Music One lounge and to the Music One office without walking out the door?
I recall there being a door between the two lounges, but it's not shown on the drawing.
Okay. But where there was a door between the two lounges. Oh, that was you. Sorry.
You said, okay, yeah, well, go ahead. Read the question now.
So you could go directly to the Music One lounge to the Music One office?
Yes.
All right. And then in the Capricorn studio area, is there a bathroom attached to that room?
No.
And then how about the Capricorn control room? Is there a bathroom attached to that one?
No.
Do you recall whether there was any full bathrooms within Chicago tract, meaning there was both a toilet as well as a bath or shower?
Yes, there were two.
Where were they?
The bathroom connected to the Music One lounge.
Is that where my pen is pointed, indicating where it was saying, where it says restroom?
Yes.
That was a full bathroom?
Yes.
Meaning it was a bath or a shower?
A shower, yes.
A shower?
Yes.
And you said there was another one as well. Where was that?
Yes, it was labeled restroom right below where it says machine room Capricorn.
And is that where my pen is pointed here, indicating?
Yes.
And again, that was a full bathroom?
Yes, shower, toilet, and sink.
And is that full bathroom connected to a particular room?
There was an open driveway. There was an open doorway that would not have a door directly in front of the entrance to the bathroom, but that could have. It would have been associated with the Capricorn room, though it's not connected to the Capricorn room.
Okay, so meaning you couldn't get directly from the Capricorn room to the bathroom. You have to go out into the hallway.
Yes.
Okay. And now showing this witness Now showing the witness what's marked as identification as government exhibit 525A and through T. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Can you take a look at those?
Yes, I looked at it.
Yes. And prior to today, did you have an opportunity to look at these?
Yes.
Do you recognize, generally speaking, what they are?
Yes, I do.
What are they?
These are photos of 865 North Laramie.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, those in the evidence. You may display them. You may display them.
That's you.
I'm not Getty. Oh, I am Getty's. I got both. Okay. All right. I take those back. All right. Briefly, can we publish this? Please do, everyone. I'm showing you 525A. Do you recognize 525A?
Yes, it is a bathroom in the studio.
And as you look at it right now, can you tell which bathroom is which?
Not definitely from this photo.
Okay, 525B.
That's a car box to the gate, to the entrance, to the parking lot, to the building at 865 Laramie.
And now at the sign it says Chicago Track 865 North Laramie. Did that sign change over time?
I feel like we had a sign at one point that said Chocolate Factory and that the address was on it with an arrow.
Okay. Aside from the sign change, is this how the gate area and call box were set up through the time that you worked for the defendant at 865 North Laramie?
Yes.
And if a guest wanted to, or if anyone was arriving at Chicago Track, what is that call box used for?
It dials directly to the reception area at the studio.
And from the reception area, is there a means to open the gate?
There will be a button
that you could press?
That you could press and open the gate.
525C, what is that?
That is the live room of the Capricorn room.
And 525D?
Yes, the same room, just a different view.
And it looks that like there's a set of stairs. And in here, it looks like there's a separate area where my pen is pointed up the stairs. What is in that? What is in there?
It will be an isolated booth, a vocal booth.
And then is this remaining area the control room?
This will all be the
living room?
live room, yeah.
Live room. I'm going to say living room. Live room? Do you recognize 525E?
Yes, this is the Music One office.
And do you recall what's through that indicating doorway?
The hallway outside, the hallway that runs through the length of the second floor.
And then 525F, what is that area?
This is another view of the office.
And the doorway in 525F, where does that go?
That go into the Music One lounge.
And you testified earlier that you're looking in that floor. I'm sorry. And you testified earlier that in looking in that floor plan, there was a mean to get from Music One office to Music One lounge, although it wasn't reflected on the floor plan. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Is that the doorway where you can get between the two, correct?
Correct.
Get between the two? Okay. 525G?
That's the same room, different view.
And which doorway does it go to?
I believe that's the same door we just saw that goes into the Music One lounge.
How about 525H?
Different view, same door, but you can see that it's that clearly the office between you can see the desk.
So in this room is the office and Music One office?
Yes.
And then there is the same doorway. What can you see through the next room?
That's a refrigerator.
And inside the room with the refrigerator, what was that called then again?
The Music One lounge.
525I, what is that?
That would be the same refrigerator, and this will be Music One lounge.
And then through that door, what was through that door where my pen is pointed indicating?
That will be the Music One office.
All right. So is this sort of facing the opposite direction or a prior photograph from the prior photograph?
That's correct.
And 525J?
That looks to be inside the same room, looking into the bathroom that connects to the Music One lounge.
And just to be clear on the record, you say the same room. What is this room again? Oh,
Music One lounge.
And that's the bathroom?
That's the bathroom connect to it.
And now what was that one, a 2 full bath that you identified earlier?
Yeah, it is, yes.
Do you recognize that?
Yeah, I believe that will be in the same room. The Music One lounge.
Is this another area showing on the couch?
Yeah, another side of the room. This bitch is getting me sick.
525I.
This will be. This could be the one, I believe that's the bathroom, a view of the bathroom that will be inside the Music One lounge.
Is that the full bathroom?
Yes.
525M?
I think that's actually the kitchen space. That's the kitchen in the hallway. So behind it, that wall will be that room in the Music One lounge. That will be in a kitchen in the main hallway.
And this is on the second floor of the chocolate factory. And so I just want to, can you point out where that kitchen area is? I'm putting for the record, I'm putting 535 back up. At the second page of that.
It's located between Music 1 Lounge and Music 2 Lounge. There's a small section called Kitchen right there in the middle.
And that's the kitchen that we just saw.
You know what? Yes.
What is that? 525. What is that?
This is a different kitchen. There's the one we saw before was a partial kitchen. This one is a full kitchen with a refrigerator and a stove.
And just putting government exhibit 235 back up. Is this the kitchen indicated on this floor plan?
Yes, it's just below where it just says elevator and just to the right of the Capricorn studio area.
Is it where it says kitchen?
Yes. This bitch getting on my damn nerves.
That's the full kitchen shown in 525
in the picture you just shown me.
And 535 and 525. Oh, do you recognize that?
That's another view of the same kitchen.
That full kitchen?
Correct.
525p. Do you recognize that?
That looks like we're back in the Music 1 Lounge again. And that's the door to the Music 1 office.
And you answered my question before. I asked it where my pen is pointing. That door does go to Music 1 office.
Yes.
Okay, 525Q. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What is that?
That is the main entrance to the studio building.
And to get to that entrance, do you have to go through the gate where the call box first?
That's correct.
And there's a sign there lit up that says tracks. During the time that you work at Chocolate Factory at 865 North Laramie, did that sign change?
I believe it was taken down at some point in time. I believe where Chicago Track left the building, we went out of business. I believe that sign went at that time. I don't believe it was always there after that.
Other than the sign in 525Q, does that accurately reflect how Chocolate Factory appears when you were working there, even while it was Chocolate Factory?
Yes.
Is this 525R? What is shown there?
There's a view of the building from Laramie Street.
And can you show where my pen is pointing? Does that say 865 the address, Laramie the address?
Yes, that will be the address.
And the entrance that is shown on 525Q that I've have put on the screen, where is that on 525R?
The gate is on the left side of the screen, so you can vaguely see the light of the track sign to the photo. It will be back where it began.
So that sort of red area right there past that entranceway.
Yes.
And by the way, that entranceway, is that the main entranceway where you identify on 235 where it says main entranceway?
Yeah, that's correct.
And when this is government exhibit 525S, do you recognize that?
I believe that's the bathroom in the Capricorn studio area.
Is that the second bathroom, full bathroom that you were testifying earlier?
Yes, I believe it is.
There's a shower shown here?
Yes.
And finally, 525T, what is shown in 525T?
There's a room that is called Skyview. It's a space between the two studios. Excuse me. The ceiling of the studios were actually hung from the ceiling of the building. So could be complete isolated, and the two studios set side by side. This will sit above a section of the floor plan called machine room, just in the space that was set between the two hung ceilings.
And just so that the jury can have a better understanding of what you're describing, by putting this second page on government exhibit 535 Are you referred to studio? Which studio are you referring to?
Music 1 control room, music 2 control room.
And so my pen, I think right now is pointed to the music 1 control room. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then on the other side is where my pen is now pointed to right of that. Is that music 2 control room?
That is correct.
And between them area appears to be something called the machine room. Is that the machine room you were just referring to?
The room, yes, that's the room I was referring to.
And what's above the machine room?
It's the room's called the Sky View.
And that's the one shown in 525T?
Correct.
You testified that in 2004, you stopped working at the 865 North Laramie and you started to work at the Chicago factory located at, chocolate factory. I said Chicago factory. Chocolate factory located at Olympia Field. Is that right?
Yes, I believe that is right.
And can you describe the outside? And that was where the defendant was living, right?
The studio moved to his home in Olympia Fields.
And
objection, Your Honor.
Did somebody say something?
Yes, Your Honor. Objection. I don't think he answered the question.
He was starting to. You want to read it back? Let's just put the question to him again. And it says he answered.
You got to read it.
Your Honor, I'm prepared to proceed, but it's 5:30. I was given your last minute, but we can stop here. Thank you. So we'll finish for the day. We'll see you tomorrow at 9:30. Just because I repeat this all the time doesn't make it any less important. Please do not read any account of this case whatsoever. Don't talk to anyone about it, and do have a good, restful evening. I see you tomorrow. Thanks so much. Okay, everybody, sit down and then witness be excused. Then the witness be excused. And we'll see you tomorrow morning, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Anything before we finish for the night? Yes, just briefly. I want to know if the defendant has reached a conclusive as to Ms. Jones' testimony, because otherwise we need to proceed with a different route.
Wait a minute. What is she trying to say?
I don't know.
Yes, I just want to know if the defense have reached a conclusion to Ms. Jones' testimony. Is that the lady with the forensics?
That wasn't her name. Her name was Jackson.
Okay, so who is Ms. Jones? Oh, who is Ms. Jones?
You know, she ain't come up yet. She didn't testify yet. This is the letter they got today.
Oh, okay. Okay, conclusion. Okay, Ms. Jones tested. Okay.
What do you mean? Well, no, I think that's right. You are going to agree to do that by video, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, do we know who's coming tomorrow?
Talk among yourself. We will.
I guess that's it.
Yes!
We got through it.
Yes! We did it. All right, good ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
We did the last 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, young ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate it. Yay, we finished it. Tomorrow we will continue the next reenactment. We did it with the two of us. We did it.
Yes, it did. It was faster too.
Yeah. Trina, I'm trying to see what's wrong.
What is they talking about?
the piss bucket. There's no room in the piss bucket, and they were starving. Every time they talked about food, somebody was bringing food to them.
Yeah, they was all eating their ass off. What the fuck they talking about?
Ma'am, the language.
I'm sorry. Ass,
language.
is that a bad word?
No, the other part.
Eating their ass off?
No, you said the F word. You said the F bomb.
Oh, okay. Well, what is they talking about? What was they talking about? Why is they saying they was held hostage and they couldn't eat and they was tied up? What are they talking about? Even this is their witness. I hope they know that this is their witness that said that they could eat and that they could go to the bathroom and that they can leave. That's the main purpose of your whole charges.
Let me tell you something. Nothing that they have charged with this man, unless I'm really a lame dummy.
But see, this is what I'm worried about because they had nothing even with Weinstein, and he still got convicted because people believed it. I had a problem with that. Nobody can explain why. Well, when they did interview Weinstein, they was like, "Oh, I just believe the Me Too movement." That's
no. There was some parts in Weinstein. Weinstein gave some admission to certain things. Remember?
Okay.
Remember that was his thing, because remember he said that they had consensual sex and they had this and they did this, and you remember?
But they also wrote letters saying they love him
But see, there was a point when a girl she said no.
Oh.
And he continued. She was like, it was somewhere in his office or something like that.
We should go over the Weinsteins too. Make sure
to read his transcript.
Mm-hmm.
We'll read that after we finish Rob's, because
after, I mean, this is well in advance, but we should, because we want to know. We want to make sure these men are in the situation they're in with no, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna hate us at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think I would like to read that one too.
Yeah, I do.
All right, good people. I'm about to hit the bed because my eyes is about to close up on y'all.
Oh, Lord child, yes. All righty, y'all. Nah, all right.
Tomorrow, Joe and Joe is coming back, y'all. Joe, and Lisa coming back.
I had a good time with them last week.
They're reading over the transcript, and they're gonna give us the definitions of instructions for RICO. So we're gonna really understand what the RICO charge is all about, because that's where Joe's expertise is, and he's gonna give us the instruction that the judge is gonna give the jury. That it's the same instructions.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get a chance to go over that. And tomorrow, Dottie will be back tomorrow morning, guys, to give tomorrow afternoon, to give y'all the total breakdown of everything. And we'll be on our last transcript, the 26th, until this lady give us the invoice, and so we can get the next set. Once she gives me the invoice, I'll have the next set ready for you guys.
Okay.
All right, but we do have other things. I got another attorney going to come in to discuss some things with you guys. So we'll be set. Next week they have, according to Kramer, she's over there in New York. I think she's testifying.
Kramer.
She was on Michelle Kramer. She was on the on her IG talking about going to New York. I just played it yesterday.
Oh, okay. What'd she say?
She'll be in New York.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me see if she got something to play right now. Let's see. Before we get off this live. Just want to try to keep you guys abreast of everything that's happening. Hold on a second. Hold on. Just bear with me. That's not my phone. All right, hold on, y'all. Yeah, I don't see it.
So that means that Dominique testifying.
No, she's not testifying.
Dominique's not?
Dominique says she goes out when the government comes in one door, she go out the other way.
What do you mean?
Yeah, that's what she said. That's what she said. She said that, you know, they looking at her. Okay, what's the name says she's at the Marcy, went to the Marcy house where the Marcy projects are. That's where Jay-Z's from. Marcy's project. She was there 10 hours ago.
I don't know.
She's
I don't
in
understand
Brooklyn.
how her mama can testify if she ain't testifying.
Oh, that girl's pregnant.
Who's
She's
pregnant?
taking no, this somebody's pregnant. She took a picture of somebody in the street. She's taking a picture of Brooklyn shop. She's taking pictures of people like all up in Brooklyn.
Who is?
Michelle Kramer. She's dancing. She said she's in her last night in the Brooklyn. So I mean she's leaving?
Well, it's probably her last night. After she testified, she probably hit back on the plane.
No, but she's not. The court ain't until Thursday.
Oh, the court ain't till next Thursday?
Yeah.
Oh, they off for damn near week.
Now she went to take a picture in front of Biggie's house.
Oh. Child, I tell you the truth.
Huh? Yeah, she leaving.
Well, we got through it. So let me go on and get off of here.
All right, good night, good people. It's been real.
Fire out.
All right, guys. Good night, darlings. I see y'all tomorrow. Nighty, night, night. Okay, Trina, I was reading today. Google. Good night, good people.